Good evening, everybody. All right, I've got... need to make sure the stream is up. So I am determined to get to the end of the Ace Attorney trilogy, or well, sorry, the first game of the Ace trilogy, Ace Attorney. Let's try that again. I am determined to get to the end of the first game of the Ace Attorney trilogy today. I know it's been a bit of a weird one, and basically it feels like the last week it's been more of a 2-hour stream sort of thing. I'm going to try and go for the full length today, and that will mean if I can, we'll maybe move into Cyberpunk if I have too much extra time. But the temperature hasn't gotten any cooler. And I'm actually, I left work early today, but I just spent that time sort of resting so that I could maybe be a little more peppy for today. But then when I went to go get the oh, for heaven's sake, sorry. I left my coffee on the other desk. One second. So yeah, basically kind of going out in this, anytime there's the heat warning, obviously there's the danger of just having all the energy sapped out of you. And on top of that, I tried to install, so I did something rather stupid. I saw that there was sort of a failed update for RimWorld. I have it on the Epic Store. So I tried to, just tried to get it installed, and I couldn't seem to work. So I uninstalled it, thinking that basically I'd lost it on my list of installed games anyway. And now it says could not download installation information. Please try again later. So I have successfully locked myself out of RimWorld. Not that I was going to play it for stream or anything, but I'm slightly annoyed at myself. So there's a side of me that kind of wants to go back and get that fixed, but we will not do that during the stream. So back to Rise from the Ashes. And again, my intention here, we will definitely finish this today. Or at the very, it would have to be a preposterously long episode. If I don't finish it today. And depending on the time, if I don't feel like there's a whole lot that I can do in terms of... Actually, you know what? I'm just going to take a quick second here and do a quick search for something. Interesting. Okay. Something for me to worry about later. But yeah, my main goal for today is to finish off Ace Attorney. If it's early enough, we can do some Cyberpunk, and if it's sort of on the margin, I'll just say that this was an easier week for me, and I will be back to our regularly scheduled programming in the following week. I will also mention it is my birthday next week, but I don't think that falls on a streaming day. I may just do I've kind of historically done a stream for it, so there's that. But I don't know. I'll figure that out. I think it probably depends on the weather. All right, February 24th, 12:14 p.m., District Court, Courtroom number 9. The court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. Emma didn't come back. Allow me to call the next witness to the stand. the officer in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day of the crime. Witness, please state your name and occupation. Me, partner? Oh, I'm just a man, same as you, wandering the trails of civilization. Occasionally helping the elderly cross the intersections when needed. Yes, we get it. Oh, I know. You're a patrolman. As for my name, if you listen hard enough, you can hear the howling wind call it out. To be exact, it's Jake Marshall, Your Honor. Howling wind? I never heard Edgeworth described that way before. Now, Mr. Marshall, let me ask you something. You were in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day the crime took place. Is this correct? According to the papers, partner. What do you mean? A desperado's soul is as boundless as the desert sands. No paper can sum it up. Maybe it's best we get on with this quickly. Please share with us your testimony of the day of the crime. In plain old English. Forsooth, the... My job was to keep a wary eye on that bone orchard. They said I was supposed to make rounds 3 times a day, but that ain't my style. Besides, the room's protected by 2 security systems anyway. If I remember right, I was at a side street saloon at the time it went down. I'm just an innocent traveling man, so if you're out of ammo, it's time I hit the trail. I can't say I particularly care for your attitude. I can't say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining. Wait a minute. What do you mean by 2 security systems? I mean the security cameras and the ID card reader. I reckon even a cowpoke like you knows about those. Yes, well, what about the fingerprint-activated locks on the evidence lockers? Fingerprint-activated locks? What kind of newfangled doohickeys are those? He's not being very helpful. It's not that good with machines or with following orders. Everyone's got their weaknesses now, don't they, Mr. Prosecutor? This one seems like trouble. Okay, Mr. Wright, he's all yours. My job was to keep a wary eye on that bone orchard. How exactly did you keep an eye on the evidence room? I just made sure nothing moved in the security camera monitor. That room's so still. Even time dies in there. I was just a caretaker who interred the recordings. You interred them? Videos and nothing aren't that useful. When the time would come, I'd erase the tape. Nothing unusual is recorded. Tapes are to be erased every 6 hours. Each time I'd erase a tape, it felt like I was erasing a part of my life. This guy has a flair for the dramatic, but it isn't going to do him any good. So in actuality, you don't physically enter the evidence room. They said I was supposed to make rounds 3 times a day, but that ain't my style. But you made your rounds on the day of the crime, right? Ain't you heard a word I said, partner? I told you that ain't my style. I'm afraid I don't understand. No desperado lets rules get in his way. The desperados I know joined the police force. So, Officer Marshall, on the day of the crime, just between you and me, I didn't set foot in the evidence room that day. There was a rubber glove stuck in the victim's locker. Do you know anything about that? Sorry, partner. Can't say I do. I haven't been in that crypt in weeks. How's this guy avoid being fired? Besides, the room's protected by 2 security systems anyway. I used to be a detective, so you've used the evidence room in the past, correct? Of course. Back in the day, my locker was a gold mine of evidence. And yet, you didn't know about the fingerprint locking mechanism? Sorry, partner. I ain't good with machines. Couldn't even tell you how a bike works. It's quite, incredible. The sensors on the locker handles cannot be seen. It's well known that some detectives are unaware of their presence. Now that he mentions it, Detective Gumshoe said something like that too. At any rate, it doesn't seem that this is relevant to the crime. Can you tell us what you were doing when the crime took place? If I remember right, I was at a street-side saloon at the time it went down. What were you doing in a place like that? I was eating spaghetti. Not even Angel steak lunches can beat that parlor's vongole sepia pasta. You mean to tell us you abandoned your police duties to eat some noodles? Not all desperados eat tacos, partner. That's not what I meant! I hope this has taught you a lesson. Strange. This is usually where Edgeworth says, "Did you not want a raise this year?" I'm just an innocent traveling man, so if you're out of ammo, it's time I hit the trail. Out of ammo, Officer Marshall? That's right, partner. Or as you'd call it, evidence. If you plan to pin me to this crime, then you'd better draw. Otherwise, you're just wasting my time. My steel horse is waiting to carry me back west into the sunset. One thing seems clear. Despite being responsible for guarding the evidence room, the witness doesn't appear to have seen anything. Texans don't take orders from anyone. Everyone knows that. Apparently your superiors don't. Okay, I have a trump card up my sleeve, so I'd best keep my cool. Before I use it, though, I'd better up the ante. I think this is the start of the testimony again. So it would seem to me that probably the Marshall's fingerprints are what I would want to use in this case, but what I'm less clear on is... Oh, hang on. So yeah, the challenge is I mean, so one is the question of knowing where, where to use this. And then the other, so this is where I sometimes get a little, this is where I get a little fishy in terms of the game logic versus the real logic. So I would say, like, this seems to be connecting him to the evidence room where he says that he's eating spaghetti. And then you would say, well, you know, he's been in the evidence room before, so if you can't establish that that was at the time of the murder, that's not really relevant. But I guess my other answer for that would be, you know, the fact that it was wiped off seems to isolate it. But again, like, I'm assuming that probably wouldn't actually work in court. But it does kind of seem to... I don't know, it does sort of seem to be... If nothing else, it's the closest that I've got. So maybe when he says he's eating spaghetti? Hang on. Okay, so... unless I want to try and somehow say it's a sheriff's badge. No question in terms... Well, he would say that he wasn't in the room, so he wouldn't know that it was Goodman. I don't see how this is relevant. Again, this is at the other murder scene. I mean, this was at least in the room, so maybe that could come up during the TV investigation, but I don't see... Like, I don't see that being more appealing than his fingerprint. All these are from the previous... Excuse me. All right. I didn't go comprehensively through it, but I think I've decided. Sounds good. Officer Marshall, doesn't it strike you as odd? That is, you being called in to testify like this? After all, you weren't in the security room at the time of the crime. And yet you dragged me down here. Explain yourself, partner. It's quite simple. You left a very large trail behind at the scene. Or to be exact, a handprint. Listen real good, partner. Like I said, I'm the caretaker of that crypt. I pay my respects, that is, make my rounds about once a month. It's only natural my fingerprints would be in there. Okay, so it did anticipate that. I only wish it were, officer. But you see, your fingerprints were covered in blood. Witness, what's the meaning of this? Your blood-stained fingerprints were at the crime scene? The blood was wiped away, however. A luminol test clearly revealed this. Well, Officer Marshall? It seems to me there ain't a person in this room with a head on his shoulders. I take it you have an explanation then, Officer Marshall. About the blood-stained fingerprint? About the blood-stained fingerprints? Very well, you may begin your testimony about your fingerprints. Found at the scene of the crime. Like I said, it's only natural for my fingerprints to be in that evidence room. One of them just happened to be at the same place as the blood-stained handprint. The murderer touched the locker where my fingerprint was by chance. Bloodstain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. Or didn't you know the murderer was wearing gloves? See, I had nothing to do with it. So, I don't know how he knows the murderer would be wearing gloves. I'm just not sure how he'd communicate that. Although there's room for doubt. Life wouldn't be fun without any doubt, partner. Defense may now cross-examine the witness. This guy's hiding something. I can feel it. Now's my chance to prove it. That's because you... How did you put it? Pay your respects once a month. Yeah, that's right. That and one more thing. That locker happens to be mine. What? What do you mean? I mean what I said. That's the locker I used when I was a detective. The locker I still use. All that's in there now, though, is a heap of broken dreams. I see. It'd be strange if my prints weren't all over that locker. Apparently, his fingerprint data was never removed from that locker's programming. Must have been using the fingerprint lock all this time without ever knowing it. Now, one thing that does interest me is I think in the video there isn't something hanging out of that locker, whereas clearly there was inside the evidence room. I'm just not quite sure how we connect that to the testimony. Marshall's fingerprints updated in the court record. Found on a bloody handprint on Marshall's own locker, the print has been wiped. One of them just happened to be at the same place as the blood-stained handprint. So then, what about the bloody handprint? It wasn't mine. It's no mystery. Please explain. My locker is covered with my fingerprints. It just so happened, murderer touched the locker where my fingerprint was by chance. The chances of that happening are 1,000,000 to 1. On the contrary, one could just argue the opposite. The chances of that not happening are 1,000,000 to 1. Get one thing straight, partner. You ain't gonna get no reward for me with a mere fingerprint. You wanna know why? Bloodstain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. Unrelated? They're as different as night and day. Kinda like cereal and cereal. One's gotta do with breakfast while the other's a type of murder. Or, you know, publication? He's right, although seemingly alike, they're totally different. I don't see what homonyms have to do with this. Or didn't you know the murderer is wearing gloves? How do you know that? I may be a loner, but I still do my job. I keep up on the reports. There was a bloodstain at the scene, thought to be left by the murderer. That's right. It was found on Detective Gumshoe's locker. However, no fingerprints were detected on that handprint. Oh yeah, I think we tried that too. Alright, so unfortunately that kind of kills my main I think that kills kind of my main line of reasoning, so I'm not quite sure what evidence to bring in here. So that would mean the murderer, wearing gloves, happened to place their hand on top of Officer Marshall's fingerprint. That's the only logical conclusion. Are you starting to get the picture, partner? The picture? This seal of blood in the desert, it's just food for the buzzards. There's only one reality, and that's this. Security tape. So long as my trail isn't in there, you can't say otherwise. This isn't getting us anywhere, Mr. Wright. Please consider carefully where you're going with this cross-examination. Yes, Your Honor. Now then, continue your testimony, Officer Marshall. Too bad that wasn't me in that video, right, partner? What do you mean by that? You want to tie me to this crime, isn't that right, partner? If so, that video is the only direct evidence you have. But that video is next to useless. It's full of blind spots. Blind spots? Places you can't see. The camera's panning back and forth. The floor isn't shown. If someone was familiar with the camera's position, they could leave the room without being caught on tape. We don't have time for your speculations, Mr. Wright. Well, Mr. Wright, if you can show us evidence in this video that indicates Officer Marshall was present, please do so now. I mean, so I guess I didn't need to do any objections, I just needed to go through the end. Let's say show evidence. Very well. Allow me to point out your mistake, Officer Marshall. Tread carefully, Mr. Wright, or you might wind up being the one making the mistake. Now then, let's have another look at that video. Show us this incriminating evidence of the witness, Officer Jake Marshall. So I guess normally I'd maybe point to the locker at the far end. Oh! No! Oh, it was E, not J. Okay. I guess we need to fast forward. There! How's that for evidence? Please allow me to apologize for my colleague, Your Honor. He gets carried away sometimes. Yes, well, this certainly isn't a first. Will you forgive him too, Officer Marshall? He's not a bad man, just a bit disillusioned. Of course, I'm not the one to gun down unarmed boys. Great, now Edgeworth is defending me. Guess that means I missed the mark. That feels wrong, though. Very well, let's get back to the cross-examination. I'm definitely pressing him on that. So there's clearly a change that happens to Locker. Maybe I shouldn't point to the locker and instead point to the... Oh yeah, I have a pause button, so... I do feel a little uncertain... yeah, I do feel a little uncertain blowing 2 opportunities, but I feel pretty strongly about... So, if I hit the locker before... I'm gonna try and explicitly go for the... Bringing our attention back to the security camera is a mistake I'm afraid you'll not soon forget, Officer Marshall. Days are short in Texas, and so are our tempers. Could you sum up what you have to say in 8 words or less? Very well. You can clearly be seen in this video. Exactly 8 words. Not bad, partner. The key lies in a certain locker shown in the video. That locker with the white cloth sticking out, that was the witnesses, I believe. Now then, let's rewind the video a bit. Oh, the white cloth. It's gone. What's the meaning of this, Officer Marshall? When the crime took place, the white cloth wasn't there. Then it suddenly appeared. There's only one explanation. Officer Marshall, you were in the evidence room at the time of the crime. What's more, you opened your locker when the camera was turned away. Order! Order! Would seem that's only... Hold your horses! Sorry, partner. You got the wrong man. So what if my locker was opened? Doesn't mean I'm the one who opened it. The murderer needed to hide something, so he opened a locker and stuck it in. It's not my fault he happened to choose mine. Why's everyone staring at me like I'm a wanted man? This guy isn't just playing dumb. He really doesn't know. I hate to rain on your parade, but you're the only person who can open that particular locker. Oh yeah? I call your bluff. You say I opened that locker. Now prove it. Presumably the locker? Yeah, only assigned detective's prints. A fingerprint sensor. We talked about this earlier today. The lockers can only be opened by the detectives they belong to. What kind of crazy talk is this? Well, Detective Gumshoe did mention something about this. In any case, the locks aren't that obvious. There are even some people on the force that don't know about the fingerprint locks. So, Sheriff, what do you have to say in 8 words or less? Do you not feel that the judiciary is part of the government? It's very good to see you, Outworld. This is actually something that I've never played this series before. This is something that a viewer gifted me, and I am delighted at how silly this is. Chat gives you a socialist vibe. Nobody's in here. Anyways, it's good to see you. I hope you're doing well. I may be doing Cyberpunk after I finish this off, but I don't suppose you've ever... I know you've played DS, but have you ever actually played a game like this before? I only got one word for you, partner. No! Order! Witness, explain yourself. This is a joke. It's the worst I've ever heard. I assure you this is no joke, Officer Marshall. Now then, please tell us what you were doing in the evidence room at the time of the crime. Olay, please answer the question. I feel like I'd be watching an anime with subtitles and the volume down. So, weirdly enough, let me just bring this thing up. I did a little bit of work. Yeah, so I'll actually confess with you, Outworld, visual novels are not normally my thing. One of the things that's kind of good about these, they have sort of the Law and Order, like the second half of a Law and Order episode where there's a little bit of an investigation part to it, but it's largely the courtroom. So it's a little bit of a combination of the silliness that it takes, and then there's a small detective bit to it, which makes it, to me, that it's what's made me sort of keep with it. But where is it? So apparently they made they have in fact made an anime TV series, but it is also apparently a live action film. Yeah, well, I mean, it's definitely not the Capcom you're going to be familiar with. But yeah, I don't know, like it's definitely not the sort of thing that I would have it's not the sort of thing I would have picked up on my own, but I'm actually quite glad that somebody gifted it, simply because it's a chance for me to try something that I never would have tried on my own. So I'm amused. This final one is actually quite busy, but quite long. But I think one of the things that's kind of fun about it is I wasn't quite sure how seriously it took itself at the very start, but they do a really good job of sort of hitting the highs and lows of sort of story beats. So every once in a while there will be the big dramatic reveal, and that's usually like a bit of a highlight. And I again, it embraces its ridiculousness. So there's a point where I wound up like interrogating a parrot, and one of the solutions, like you take out a metal detector and wand down the prosecutor to find out there was like a bullet inside of them. So once I sort of realized that it was something where there were just completely absurd solutions, it became very, very fun to just sort of hop on the ride and embrace the madness. What is he now, a bullfighter? That's all right, Officer Marshall. I believe we can figure out the rest from here. We can? Have a look at these floor plans. There's no place for someone to hide in the evidence room. I've not gone to the gym at work, no. I think I need to work for a decade or two to get the stunning physique of the annoying car guy. Yet Officer Meekins didn't see Officer Marshall. If that's so, then where was the witness? It seems Mr. Wright has an answer. That's right, the only possible conclusion. Well then, let's hear it. Where was Officer Marshall at the time of the crime? I mean, he's the person in the room. Officer Marshall was standing right there. There? But that's where the victim, Detective Goodman, was. Correct, unless the man wasn't Detective Goodman. I believe the victim in the video is Officer Marshall. It was you, dressed up like Detective Goodman. But that's preposterous. Officer Meekins witnessed the detective at the crime scene. Once he saw the man's face, he'd know for sure. May I point out, though, that Officer Meekins did not know Detective Goodman. He also testified about the man's reaction when confronted. When I entered the evidence room, I asked him to show his card, sir. Yes, and how did Detective Goodman respond? He suddenly pulled a knife on me. Something about the officer's story puzzled me. If the man had his ID card, why didn't he just show it? Yes, he would have needed it to enter the evidence room, so he must have been carrying it. The answer is simple. He couldn't show it. As you can see, Detective Goodman's picture is on his ID card. Oh, I get it. If he showed that, his cover would have been blown. Officer Meekins would have realized the man wasn't Detective Goodman. Do you have anything to say to this, Officer Marshall? You've got quite an imagination, partner. We got a term for that. It's called circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence? He's still denying it. You're gonna have to do better than that to break a detective. Unless you have hard evidence proving I dressed up as the victim. I can't say I particularly care for your uncooperative disposition. Can't say I care for your beard, but you don't see me complaining. Well, Mr. Wright, do you have evidence proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that Officer Marshall dressed up as the victim? Well, who am I kidding? I don't have anything like that. I can see the fear in your eyes, partner. Seems you're the one who couldn't take the desert heat. This can't be happening. By the way, the game does refer to his hair quite frequently. It's so obvious he's the one. What can I do? It looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed. I'll pass on to you what someone told me when I was just starting out. When you've run into a wall with no place to go, return to the basics. The basics. For me, that would be what Mia used to tell me. Phoenix, try thinking outside the box. Eyes up here, Outworld. I shouldn't look for proof that Officer Marshall was in disguise, but rather I should look for evidence that came about because he was in disguise. Why do you think this locker was opened in the first place? What do you mean? There's no reason for Officer Marshall to open his locker at the time of the crime. Yet he did, despite the chance it might be discovered later as it has been. Which means he didn't originally plan to open his locker. According to the defense's argument, Officer Jake Marshall dressed up as Detective Goodman at the time of the crime. Then, after the crime was committed, he opened his own locker for some unknown reason. The fact that a white cloth is sticking out of the locker seems to indicate that he opened it in order to put the cloth inside. So just what exactly is this piece of cloth? Perhaps the video is the key to all our unanswered questions. I don't have any of it. I don't have any evidence, so this video is my only shot. Very well. Let's take yet another look at the security tape. After committing the crime, the witness opened the locker to put away the white cloth. Please show us why the witness had to open his locker. Oh. Because it's bloody.
Take that!
For some reason, you disguised yourself as Detective Goodman and entered the evidence room, though I don't know to what end yet. However, something unexpected happened. Officer Meekins barged in on you. When asked to show your ID card, you pulled a knife on him. However, Officer Meekins panicked, and the white coat you were wearing was soiled with blood. A bloody white coat. You couldn't just walk out like that, so you hid the coat in your locker. Not bad, pardner. Now then, Officer Marshall, are you ready to tell us the truth? Looks like I underestimated y'all. I hope you're happy now, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, if you were only half as persistent then as you are today, we all wouldn't have to be here now, would we? Officer Marshall, tell the court what you did. All of it. All right. Seems that the time has come. I had to do it that day. I couldn't just stand by and let it die. I stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out. I managed to escape. I knew which areas wouldn't be caught on camera. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15. So the supposed victim was really you. There's one thing I still don't understand. Traces of a large quantity of blood were found on the floor of the evidence room. If no one was murdered, then how could that be? Officer Meekins managed to cut his own hand. My guess is he's the donor. It was way too much blood for such a small donation. I had to do it that day. I couldn't just stand by and let it die. When you say it, you mean... Do you even have to ask, partner? The SL9 incident. 2 years have passed since that case was closed. It was going to completely end with the transferal that day. Not if I have anything to do with it. That incident's not over. But what did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room? When a case is closed, only that case's lead detective can look through the evidence. I wanted to have a look at it myself one more time, no matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner. That case is mine. Officer Marshall wasn't in charge of that investigation. Why does he care so much about it? That day was my last chance. That's why I stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. Why did you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman? If I didn't make it look like Goodman was carrying out the evidence transferal, I'd be arrested for stealing evidence, which wouldn't get me anywhere. So you did it to fool the security camera. And the detective's ID card? I stole that the morning of the incident. That really was why Goodman started filing out that lost item report. I returned his ID card. I left it on the floor in the prosecutor's office parking lot. The ID card I found was left there by Officer Marshall. So essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight. What do you mean, partner? I mean the fingerprint-activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open that locker by yourself. You could because a rubber glove just happened to get stuck in the door. That means Detective Goodman must have opened that locker before Officer Marshall. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out. You pulled a knife on Officer Meekins and tried to drive him off? Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only planned on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. I didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time. Officer Meekins certainly is a one-in-a-million type of person, mistaking a detective for an intruder and demanding to be shown his ID. I'll have to think a little bit more about his raise this year. When did Edgeworth get so much influence? Anyway, he threw himself at me, and I ended up cutting him slightly. I'm sorry it had to turn out that way. Me knocking him out and everything. By the way, what happened to your knife? Oh, you mean this one? I don't know what to say. So you knocked Officer Meekins out and managed to escape. I knew which areas would be caught on camera. So you did your research beforehand. Those who go into the desert unprepared don't live long, partner. I didn't think it would make a difference, though. The security tape is erased every 6 hours. If all had gone as planned, no footage would have been left. However, you bloodied your coat in a struggle with Officer Meekins. If someone was in the security room when I came out, the jig would have been up. I opened my locker and stashed it in there. What was Officer Meekins doing during that time? What else? He was sleeping like a baby. So what you're saying is, on that day, there wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15. But the blood found at the scene certainly indicates a crime took place. What are you, blind? The victim shown on that tape is me, and I'm not dead yet, partner. So you stole the evidence from the locker. Actually, no, I didn't. Why not? When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone. What? Mr. Edgeworth, where is that evidence? It's still missing, Your Honor. Detective Goodman's locker was already empty. Someone else stole the evidence. Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing? Far away, partner. It's a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer. It's a courtroom! Why did you do this? Stealing a detective's ID, injuring a police officer? This is no small offense. Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. It just can't be forgiven with a simple cut in salary. Salary cuts are ever a valid solution. Like I said, this isn't your case. This one is mine. And I'll do anything it takes to get an answer I'm satisfied with. The witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more. I can't just forget the SL9 incident. You know why? But that case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it? That's the reason the evidence was stored in the evidence room. Joe Dark was convicted for his crimes. One thing I can say for sure is he deserved his sentence. I remember the Joe Dark case. It involved serial murders, didn't it? I don't intend to complain about how it turned out, but there's something that still bothers me. Something went down at that trial. Something no one will talk about. What happened? I don't know. That's why I'm trying to find out. Why is he so concerned with that incident? Maybe I should present him with what I think his real reason is. I had a feeling we'd wind up here sooner or later. God, everyone involved here is related in some way to that case. Better take another look at the files. Okay. Incident SL9, closed. Perpetrator, Joe Dark. Crime, serial murder, sentence, death. Victims, Edward Jones, Jason Knight. Neil Marshall. Edith Kirby, Rachel Moss, Jeb Bates, Neil Marshall. Head prosecutor, Miles Edgeworth. Witnesses, Lana Skye, Emma Skye. Investigation Task Force, executive investigators, Damon Gant, Lana Skye. Head investigator, Bruce Goodman. Investigators, Jake Marshall and Angel Starr. So the part I'm less clear on, though, I mean, I can present the incident files, I suppose, but maybe I'll do that at the first mention of SL9. Stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out. I managed to escape. I knew which areas wouldn't be caught on the camera. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15. Just can't forget the SL9 incident. You know why? Objection! Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you care so much about the SL9 incident. Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner. I have the SL9 incident file here. The name Marshall is mentioned in here. In a list of murder victims. Neil Marshall. Are you related to this man? Neil Marshall. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the name. 2 years ago, he received the same lousy prosecutor award you got. What? A prosecutor? You must be talking about the King of Prosecutors Award. Now I remember. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did. That's right. He was killed. And the case fell into your hands. But what's his relation to you? He was my brother. I was investigating the murders with Damon Gant, the then Deputy Chief of Police. The group of detectives I was part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence. That was all we needed. He was arraigned and incarcerated. The case was finally closed. At least, according to the public records. What do you mean? My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight. And that's it. Your reason for your insane actions. There's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me. Well, at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened at the police department on the day of the crime. That was the last day the SL9 case could be reopened. Not satisfied with its resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence. Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled. Yes, this mystery has finally been cleared up. No murder took place at the police department that day. The things that happen by chance never cease to amaze. At exactly the same time as the murder at the prosecutor's office, this fake murder was going on at the police department. Chance? It's got to be more than that. So if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murderer in the prosecutor's office parking lot was the real one. Which in turn means only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye. Objection! But wait! A verdict wasn't reached in yesterday's trial. Objection! Which is why we examined the incident at the police department today. But there's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There yet remained the mystery of the simultaneous murder at the police department. Seems to me the boys got the draw on you, partner. All of the mysteries at the police department have been resolved, no doubt about it. Our sole murder took place at the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lana Skye. And the testimony of one Miss Angel Starr is completely incontestable. If you have a response, make it a single word or less. Ah! I rest my case. Seems that this trial has reached its conclusion. There's no room for doubt. Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time disproving the alleged murder at the police department. There's no doubt what I proved today is true. The apparent murder on the security's cameras tape really was fake. But I didn't realize that would end up proving Lana guilty. Now then, the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant Your Honor, wait! Emma? The defense has an objection, a scientific objection. Right? What do you mean, right? Mr. Wright, are you this girl's guardian? Your Honor? Oh, in a sense. Please, Your Honor, all I'm asking is for a minute of your time. Please hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please. I don't want to leave any loose ends. You want a minute? I'll give you 3. I was kind of in shock. I mean, finding out the SL9 incident referred to the Joe Dark killings. Now that she mentions it, the names of both Sky Sisters were in that file. That's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day. So I knew his fingerprint had nothing to do with the crime. That left only one thing, the other handprint. You mean the traces of blood found on Detective Gumshoe's locker. But no fingerprints were found on it, right? No, but I figured if I examined it scientifically, I'd be sure to find a clue. So, I ran over there and looked at it again. So you did find something? No. Huh? Sorry, I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all. Is that all? Please don't be mad. I'm just a high school student. I'm just an attorney. Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clue we have. If we can't find something wrong with them... Please, Mr. Wright, you're a professional. If anyone can save Lana, it's you. Me? Oh boy. Time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright. With regard to the incident at the police department, does any reasonable doubt remain? It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark. Looking at the floor plans, a handprint was discovered around here. Is there a problem with this? Mr. Wright, I'm sorry I can't be of more use. But still, if you can't find anything wrong with that blood mark, Lana will be... Please answer my question, Mr. Wright. We don't have all day. Yes, Your Honor. If ever I've needed to concentrate, it's now. What could be wrong with that handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker? Well, the contraption was in front of it. Could there be something I'm missing?
Objection!
This handprint left at the crime scene clearly shows a contradiction. The only thing that seems clear is your grasping, Mr. Wright. You've been staring pretty intently at those floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them? Yes, this is strange. Take a good look at these floor plans. Something is missing. Missing? You mean something hasn't been drawn on there? Yes, something that, when drawn, will completely change the meaning of the blood mark. Let us pray the defense isn't simply trying to buy time. Very well, Mr. Wright. With all this evidence here, there's got to be something that I can use. Question is, which item can prove something is missing in the floor plans?
Take that!
What about that piece of plywood? The Blue Badger, mascot of the police force. Defender of truth, guardian of proof. Explain yourself, Mr. Wright. Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. The Blue Badger is not here. So watch what happens when we put him in. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime. Well, what? That's right. So long as the Blue Badger is dancing here, it would be impossible to place a handprint at this spot on the locker. What? So that means... Just exactly what does that mean? It means it can't be done. What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniably found on that locker. Don't look at me. I didn't put it there. Mr. Wright, think through it scientifically. Emma? On that afternoon, Officer Meekins was the one who brought the Blue Badger to the evidence room, right? After he put it down, it would be impossible to leave a handprint on that locker. So that must mean this blood mark was left there before the Blue Badger was brought in. Just one moment. I will not allow such a far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom. May sound far-fetched, Your Honor, but it's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, the police department's evidence room. Blood was spilled not once, but twice. But how? One time was captured on this tape, then by the security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand, from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is the other time. Someone bled prior to the struggle shown on this tape. It had to have been. It had to have been Detective Goodman when he was really murdered. That's ridiculous. I refuse to accept your absurd claim. The murderer portrayed in the security tape has been proven to be a fake. However, that does not explain the blood mark found on the locker. So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, when did it take place? I demand you show evidence that proves when it occurred. When did the first incident occur? To summarize, the defense claims that prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, who was posing as Detective Goodman, another incident took place in that evidence room. That's right, the blood mark on the locker proves this. Very well, then tell us, when did this first incident occur? As Mr. Edgeworth said, proof must be presented. Proof that shows when the murder took place. There's only one piece of evidence that can show that. Now then, will the defense please present its evidence? What shows when the first crime took place? Oh crap. Died within an hour half of 4, so the autopsy report helps here. You know, the one other entry into the room would also work. I think that's slightly more convincing than the autopsy report. Let's go for it. If the crime took place inside the evidence room, then the killer would have had to enter it. And in order to do so, an ID card would have been required. An ID card. Oh! The ID card record. Officer Meekins brought in the Blue Badger panel into the evidence room at, let's see here, 4:50 p.m. If the crime took place before that time, then it would be 4:40 p.m. Ah! Ah! Miles Edgeworth! What have you done? I never would have figured you had the nerve, boy. Drop the act, witness. It doesn't take a lot of thought to figure out it couldn't have been me. Nope, I ain't getting it. I'm afraid I don't understand either. It's clear from the luminol test that blood was there. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice the blood. That means the blood from the first crime was wiped away by the real murderer. I would have had just 10 minutes to murder the victim and carry his body away, and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible. That would mean the crime must have taken place before Mr. Edgeworth entered the evidence room. Let's look at the chart again. There's only one other card number remaining, 7777777. Talk about a lucky number. But wait, that doesn't make sense. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room? Since there's no record of his card being used before... Is it the chief of police that they're implicating? He must have entered along with the real murderer. That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with 7777777. Mr. Edgeworth, please look into this ASAP. So the reason I say the chief of police is that there was the, there's that lost card form, so I'm wondering if that was the same conversation. But that's like a big leap, so. But then again, he's also the only other character that we've seen right now. Find out whose ID number is 7777777. That's 1 7 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I'm unable to look up the owner of that ID card. At least, at present. Hello, Takri, how you doing? What? Explain yourself, son. The ID number 7777777 belongs to someone with a rank of captain or higher. Someone who is a so-called executive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire into such a person's identity. But that's ridiculous. Just how... I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There is one situation in which we can be granted such authority. If an official charge If an official charge is filed against an executive is accepted. An official charge? You're all alike, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor's office operates. I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I would appreciate it if you would keep your slander to yourself. Slander, is it? Okay. Let me ask you a question. Yes? No, not to you. To her, the defendant sitting over there. Your own little executive. Lana? Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course we've looked up her ID number. And it's not 7777777. Don't play me for a fool, partner. That's not what I want to ask. All I want to know is one thing about that incident. The SL9 incident? Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence? Do you need the witness to repeat his question, Chief Prosecutor? I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, I was in charge of that prosecution for that trial. At the time, occasionally, we felt the powerlessness of the law. At least, I did. Anna? I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. But before I realized it, we were the ones being suppressed by the law. Defendant, just what are you saying? I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look me, an investigator in that crime, in the eye and say that you did? Chief Prosecutor, you didn't. I don't have to, Officer Marshall. Why won't you answer him? Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to, in order for him to get the verdict he deserved. But Lana, even if it involved forging evidence. See? That's what I'm talking about. No. No! Order! 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 Lana's remarks caused such a stir the chaos in the courtroom could not be quelled. The conclusion of the trial would have to wait until the following day. To be continued. So this is actually one of the things I'll say. Like, obviously, I talked a bit about how the, how the style of the game is quite silly, and it's not normally my style. But it does actually hit on some really fun and like big themes, right? So there's, if you wanted, I'm sure you can actually do a much more kind of serious game entirely about miscarriage of justice and corrupt prosecutors and such. I'm glad they actually do it this way, because it's fun and they spin a good yarn without like having to overdo it. But again, one of the things that I'm really enjoying is when it like it allows you to interrogate a parrot, but it also actually has some very good twists and reveals in terms of the overall story. So let me oh, another investigation part. It's actually funny. I thought it would have to be for. I knew that there were. I knew there was more time. I didn't realize that there was basically an investigation part. So we may not get to Cyberpunk tonight. Yeah, no, I think it's a good one. Like it's kind of. I prefer more serious stories, but the balance with fun. Yeah, so it's one of these things here where I think the style of the game would need to change quite a bit. So I haven't played all of the Sinking City, but I'm liking the way that it approaches Lovecraftian stories. Like there's a couple of things about it where I feel like when I go through the Sinking City, there are situations where I'm sort of able to fight down like a monster, and that doesn't feel as good because like I think one of the things about so like in terms of like the Lovecraftian stories, it's not that you're completely powerless against the monsters, but obviously the to me it seems like the danger felt in those stories tends to be very real. So you'll have the police kind of go in, and there may be one or two people in the group that winds up killed as part of this. I think this is in the Call of Cthulhu. Like there's sort of this group that goes into the swamp to chase out the cult, and it does leave with a couple of officers dead. And I'm assuming like any time that you do some kind of operation, the ideal number of officers killed is 0. And any time that someone is killed, that is actually a major problem. That represents a case of something going tremendously wrong. I mean, as opposed to say, I'm assuming something like a military operation, the ideal situation, of course, would be that you don't lose anything, but you probably have to acknowledge that in order to achieve your objectives, there's going to be some sort of loss, even if it's just in terms of equipment or something like that. So in the case of the Cthulhu mythos, you have these examples of investigations going on. You have, even to sort of break up a Cthulhu cult, the fact that whether it's a supernatural effort or just the cultists, there's a very real danger faced by people who arguably are in fact equipped to handle situations like that. And then, of course, whenever you're dealing with something, monstrous, you don't even know if sort of weaponry will work. But the problem is that, not every game has to be Amnesia. I imagine that people have tried to do an Amnesia style for Cthulhu mythos games. And I mean, I think some people would argue that maybe Amnesia does have Lovecraftian elements to it. It's certainly, I mean, the HPL engine is named after the author, right? But again, I think there's room. Like, what is it? The Shadow over Innsmouth actually has a pretty decent little action scene in the sense of like the guy being chased down. I don't think he fights anybody meaningfully, but it's one of the things that sort of gets the blood pumping a little bit. So yeah, needless to say, it's so I'm kind of going off the rails here a little bit, but I kind of imagine that a more serious story again would probably follow something like the Sherlock Holmes or the Sinking City style. And of course, that style of game already exists. It of course also exists after the the Phoenix Wright games do. But again, like I think it's not a I mean, actually this is probably the better thing to say. I'm often surprised at the types of stories that delight me. And I think in this case, the fact that when they want, they can actually take on some big ideas, but that doesn't get in the way of handling the sheer absurdity of the situations these characters find themselves in. I think as far as a combination is concerned, just makes for more situations in which I'm sort of like, I'm glad I'm playing this right now, than, me just being, the law doesn't work that way. So anyways, I'm assuming this will be the last day. But then again, I thought yesterday was the last day in game 2. I'm so sorry, Mr. Wright. I'm sorry for what my sister said. Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to in order for him to get the verdict he deserved. I didn't know. I never knew what the SL9 incident was, just another name for the Joe Dark killings. Sounds like everyone's heard about these killings but me. Lana wanted Dark convicted so badly. That's why she used me. That's why she used what happened to me. What do you mean by what happened to you? It's all there in the file. Joe Dark's last victim was Prosecutor Neil Marshall. When he murdered Officer Marshall's brother, he left behind an incriminating piece of evidence. But what did you have to do with those killings, Emma? On the night Prosecutor Neil Marshall was murdered, Joe Dark tried to kill me. What? He tried to kill you? Officer Marshall's brother, Neil, was only trying to save me. So that means you... Yes. I was a witness in the Joe Dark trial. I didn't see that one coming. It happened 2 years ago. It was right about this time of the year, too. There was a terrible thunderstorm that day, unusual for the season. I was alone in my sister's office. We were planning to eat dinner together once she finished her work. Then suddenly, this terrified man came bursting into the office. Joe Dark. It seemed like he was running from someone. He pulled out a knife and screamed at me. I didn't know what was going on. Just then, Prosecutor Marshall showed up. Jake Marshall's brother. Joe Dark tried to take me hostage. But before he could, Mr. Marshall tackled him. Then, what happened? I'll never forget it. Lightning struck and the lights went out. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning flashed outside the window, lighting up the office for an instant. What I saw then burned a permanent picture in my mind. I can still see it now. Permanent picture. I don't remember the moment when Dark stabbed Mr. Marshall. So you weren't able to testify about that? No, I was only asked about when I was attacked. That must have been why she made up the crime. Made it up? You mean provided bogus evidence? The prosecutor's office wanted the guilty verdict so badly. Lana forged the evidence and Mr. Edgeworth used it. Edgeworth? Yes, but I'm sure he didn't know anything about it. He couldn't have known that he was being given false evidence. Even so, that's when it all started. The rumors about Mr. Edgeworth, I mean. It's all my fault. If I could have just testified properly, none of this would have happened. So it's true, even though he may not have known it. Edgeworth really was involved in falsifying evidence. After that case ended, Lana was never the same. I'm wondering, by the way, knowing that this is a DS entry, I wonder if it was a point where they sort of knew they wanted to turn Edgeworth into his own character, and so they added this sort of redemption arc to it. Because it does seem in the previous 4 episodes, Edgeworth is kind of set up as a like, not just an antagonist, but definitely if not unlikable, definitely... Well, actually, no, that's not entirely true. I guess by the end of the 4th one, he's... You have the relationship between people, so... Yeah, I guess it doesn't really hold up if you take into account the Gourd Lake. Never mind, I didn't say anything. She became cold like she is today. She must not have been able to face up to what she did, especially not to Emma. What did you see in the instant of the crime that occurred? Dark knocked down Mr. Marshall and raised his knife. Neil Marshall was stabbed right in front of this poor girl. I don't remember what happened after that. Apparently I passed out. When I came to, Lana was cradling me in her arms. Poor Emma. You've been through so much. I couldn't bring myself to testify about that instant. I tried, but the words just wouldn't come out. I drew a picture, but it wasn't any good. 2 years ago, you must have been 14. That's understandable. Once it was all over, I made up my mind. I decided that when I grew up, I'd become a scientific investigator. I want to be able to fight crime with my testimonies and find the evidence to make an airtight case. That way, Lana would never have to forge any. I see. I think I'm finally starting to understand what makes Emma tick. But there's still something that bothers me about that crime. There's something that's puzzling me, Emma. What is it? You said you were in Lana's office at that time, right? That's right. Why then would a serial killer come running in there? Not only that, but he was being chased by a prosecutor. Oh, there's no mystery there. Joe Dark had been taken in for questioning that day. Taken in for questioning? You mean by the police? Of course. This happened at the police department. He tried to run away halfway through the interview and fled into my sister's office. Why did he run all the way into your sister's office? Because the detective offices in the questioning room are right across from the elevator. Across from the elevator? But Lana was the chief prosecutor, wasn't she? No, silly! Didn't I tell you? 2 years ago, Lana was the detective. She was the best in the entire force. What? That's news to me. After the Joe Dark case, she was transferred to the prosecutor's office and made chief prosecutor. Lana used to be a detective. I better have another talk with her. Lana! Mr. Wright, it seems I keep causing you trouble. Falsifying evidence. I didn't think you were the type. Criminals don't mind playing foul. Why should we? But Lana, if you're wrong, an innocent person might be found guilty. Believe me, I understand the risks. Lana, Emma told me about you. Oh? About how you were a detective 2 years ago, and how the SL9 incident was the reason for your transfer to the prosecutor's office. That's right. Could you fill me in on the details, especially about that unusual change of jobs? I suppose you have a right to know, Mr. Wright. A lot of revelations were uncovered at the trial today, not the least of which was the fact that this case is largely connected to another one 2 years ago. Evidence from that case was stolen as well, though I expected as much. I know how obsessive Officer Marshall can be. That trial really wasn't fair, was it? I believed in you, Lana. I believed that no matter what happened, you'd always stick to the truth. Couldn't be helped, Emma. At that trial 2 years ago, I sold my soul. Well, all drama aside, the fact of the matter is, at 5:15 there was no murder at the police department. Tell me it's not true, Lana, what the witness, Miss Starr, said. About you stabbing Mr. Goodman with a knife. Lana, I don't understand. Why won't you tell us? Emma, this doesn't involve just me. I don't think I've ever seen Lana look so fazed before. It's true, I was a member of the police force 2 years ago. She was amazing. They still talk about the cases she and Chief Gant cracked together. Chief Gant? He was a deputy chief of police back then, but he still worked the crime scenes. Damon Gant. He was everything I aspired to be. They were the best team ever. They solved crimes before the reports even could be filed. Emma really idolizes her big sister. But now you're chief prosecutor. What happened? I always planned on becoming a prosecutor. The reason I became a detective was to gain experience investigating crime scenes so you could use that experience in court, right? Gant's help in the SL9 case was crucial to its resolution. After that, he became chief of police and arranged my transfer to the prosecutor's office. Maybe I should ask more about this investigation of theirs 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was second in command of the detectives investigating Dark. Second in command? That means the investigation lead was Damon Gant, right? Yes, Deputy Chief Gant and I shared the same office and the same investigations. They even had the same office. We led a team of the best detectives on the force. Detective Goodman, whose case it was, Jake Marshall and Angel Starr. It was the first time Marshall worked with his brother. He was quite gung-ho. Without a doubt, Joe Dark was the serial killer. We asked him to come in for questioning. We were desperate for evidence. That was when his final murder took place, when he tried to murder Emma. Prosecutor Marshall was trying to save me from Dark. You see, the first person who happened upon the scene of the crime was me. Now you tell us. Damon Gant and Neil Marshall were the ones questioning Dark that day. The investigation was in its final stages and Dark must have suddenly panicked. So he waited until Gant and Marshall let their guards down and fled the room. From there, he ran straight to the office shared by Deputy Chief Gant and myself. That's where he found me. So you were the first person to run to the scene, Lana. It appears so. I was filing some papers while Gant and Marshall were questioning Dark. When I returned to my office, I saw 3 bodies on the floor and smelled blood. 3 bodies? Prosecutor Marshall, the victim, Emma, who had passed out, and the suspect, Joe Dark. During the struggle, it seems Mr. Marshall struck a final blow before he died. Joe Dark had incurred a minor concussion and lay unconscious. What did you do? To be honest, I panicked. I picked up Emma, carried her out of the room, and I just held her. Can't blame her. After all, her sister must have gone through. After that, I placed Dark under immediate arrest. Let me get this straight. You were all involved in the SL9 incident. That's right. Quite a coincidence, hmm? I don't buy it. What are you saying? There's no way everyone involved in this trial was also involved in that incident. Just by chance. That case was solved 2 years ago. At least one person went to extremes because they didn't believe it was truly solved. Officer Marshall. Yes, his actions came as a surprise to me as well. Ever since his brother died, he's changed completely. Drinking on the job. I guess he wasn't convinced with the ruling against Joe Dark. Life doesn't end with the closing of the case. Everyone has to live the rest of their lives with their memories. That case may just not be over yet. Emma was assaulted by Dark at the police department, right? Yes, in the office that Damon Gant and I shared. The office that Mr. Gant now occupies by himself. The chief's office. Maybe we should have a look at the chief's office, the site of the final SL9 murder. It really does seem to be pushing me to specific locations. I actually like it because it's, you know, I'm spending less time sort of spinning around wasting time and letting the mystery unfold. I don't see Detective Gumshoe anywhere. Things seem kind of quiet around here today. You're right. The Chief of Detectives seems the same, though. Why don't we go look for some other people to talk to? Right. We can come back here later. February 24th, Police Department. Entrance. Howdy, Bambina. Oh, Mr. Marshall. Never thought things turned out this way when I woke up this morning. Que sera, sera. You never know where life will lead you, eh, Bambina? I should have known my luck had run out when old Billy dried up this morning. Billy? Must be his pet cactus. Say, where are you headed? Just over to the prosecutor's office for a little interrogation. It's a voluntary appearance, but we all know I won't be coming back. Sorry, but you can't go into the evidence room today, partner. But Mr. Marshall, why did you do it? Why do prospectors head west? If ever there was a case I needed to know the truth about, it was that one. Thank you, Creep. Before you turn yourself in, Mr. Marshall, would you mind telling us exactly what happened? Looks like I won't be getting a steak lunch today. Something was fishy about that trial from the beginning. It wasn't just me either. All the detectives thought so. What do you mean fishy? Some of the facts reported were inconsistent with the evidence we found. For example, the murder weapon. The murder weapon? You mean that switchblade knife with the broken tip? That was Joe Dark's, all right. But in the initial autopsy report, the question was raised. Question? The blade of the knife was not a perfect match with the the wound the victim sustained. What does that mean? It means there's a good chance that the knife was not the murder weapon. However, in that report that was finally submitted, the possibility had been erased. Could the facts have been concealed with forged evidence? That case left behind scars on all of us. The scars that the SL9 incident left behind. I got the looks, but he got the brains. He was one of the best prosecutors around. I just made detective when it went down. It was our first case together. How old was he, your brother? He was 27 at the time. He was awarded the highest honor that very day. The highest honor? You mean the King of Prosecutors? I knew it. What are you looking at me like that for? That's an honor for a prosecutor. Mr. Marshall must have been really close with his brother. The day the SL9 incident took place, that wasn't the same day as... That's right. It was the day of the evidence transferal. Interesting. It was drizzling that morning, and by nightfall there was thunder. Can't believe 2 years have gone by already. Tried to steal the evidence so the case wouldn't die. Apparently someone tried to stop you. Detective Goodman was murdered, and the evidence locker was empty. There was something going on behind the scenes in that case. We all knew that later. Every detective involved in that investigation, save one, was taken care of. Miss Starr was fired, and I was demoted and boxed away in a tiny room. What about Detective Goodman? If they did something to him, too, the commissioners would get suspicious. Nah, they were careful enough to be not too obvious. Hey, who are you talking about? Don't get upset, Bambina. I mean Damon Gant and Lana Skye. Investigation lead Damon Gant and the second-in-command Lana Skye. There wasn't a person on the force who hadn't heard of that duo. That case was the biggest step in both their careers. After the case ended, Lana transferred to the prosecutor's office, right? Yeah, Damon Gant, the new chief of police, arranged for that to happen. She's never been the same since she left. Everyone who knew her said so. Chief Prosecutor Sky was totally different when she was a detective. Now that he mentions it, Emma said something like that too. Tell me, what happened to my sister? Sorry, Bambina, but her secret is too well guarded. I never found out. Lana's secret. It all started 2 years ago. So there you have it. That's my story. Did you enjoy it, partner? It was certainly enlightening. It's one thing for sure I found out in court today. That boy Edgeworth isn't my enemy. He was the one who used falsified evidence to get a guilty verdict. Someone else was the one who gave him that evidence and planned everything. That someone is Damon Gant. Don't believe me? Well, I don't blame you. Won't even be a patrolman after today. Too bad I won't be around to work with you when you become a real scientific investigator. Adios, Bambina. That's a nice exit for that character. But I don't see how we get to the chief prosecutor's office. The Blue Badger is still writhing around today. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's dancing. Speaking of dancing, the whole police department has been dancing around like crazy since the other day. Can I take out his batteries? I just can't help but feel he's going to do something naughty. Okay, so I wanted to get to the chief prosecutor's, or maybe the underground part. Oh, right, because it's near the interrogation rooms. Or is it? No, it should be the chief. Okay, anyways, we're still going to do it. February 24th, prosecutor's office, underground parking lot. No one's here today, not even Miss Starr. Everyone's probably busy looking into exactly what went down in the evidence room. That must be where the detectives are. But we proved in court today that on the day of the crime, no one was murdered in the evidence room at 5:15 p.m. Yeah, I thought we were finally making some headway in our case. But instead, it looks like we just ended up making Lana look even more guilty. Hang in there, Lana. Got to find all the answers by tomorrow. Oh, obviously Lana Sky did it, but we're the defense, so we can't say that too loudly. February 24th, High Prosecutor's Office, room 1202. Mr. Edgeworth isn't here. Maybe he's being questioned by an inquiry committee? He took a real beating in court today. Yeah, with Lana admitting to falsifying evidence 2 years ago. I guess we'll just have to come back later. Okay, so that doesn't help. This place is always pretty empty, but today it's deserted. Must mean everyone's busy solving crimes. Oh, if you're looking for the others, they're all in the conference room. Thanks. Oh, he actually talked to us. With the chief prosecutor saying what she did and the decision about what to do, about Mr. Edgeworth, not to mention our statement to the media in tomorrow's trial, there's more chaos going on than Thanksgiving and Christmas put together. I think festive is the word usually used for those. Sir, we'd like to have a look around Chief Gant's office. Just use the connecting hallway to the other building and take the elevator to the top floor. Really? You mean it's okay for us to go in there? I mean, We aren't police officers or anything. Hey, you're right. You can't go in there. It's off limits. Now we see where Detective Gumshoe gets his unique charm. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's head to the chief's office. Good Lord. So this is exactly what I mean in terms of just overall actions to take, and like, you know, it's a standard procedural, right? This is the I'm hoping that most people have at least seen one episode of Law and Order where actually, okay. So what I should specify here is I'm talking about sort of the standard Law and Order, because I think like SVU is probably the one that's still on the air. I think so anyway. And that one I think is a little bit more investigation oriented. But like standard Law and Order was always, I mean, almost evenly divided, but I don't think that was always the case. But there'd basically be the, you know, there's like that famous opening in the criminal justice system. The people are represented by, what is it, two equally important branches, or like, you know, the police investigate crimes and prosecutors. So, you know, you've got, and like in terms of the characters and all of that, you have sort of these different arcs for the various characters, but there's sort of the investigation part where they're trying to find, you know, the murderer, or, you know, sometimes it's not a murder, but like basically there's like the whodunit part is the police part. And very often, you know, with good writing, you'll probably have some kind of detail that may inform the inform the later part that takes place in the trial. But then there's a whole other set of characters for the courtroom parts. And in fact, one of the formulas I've noticed is that the more impassioned speech the prosecution gives at the end, the more likely the person's going to be found not guilty at the end of the episode. But yeah, basically that's roughly how it works. And so again, I don't believe in any of the stuff that we had read. It says that by the way, I just noticed that looks interesting. But yeah, whether or not Law and Order was an inspiration for this, it's definitely a very standard form for those types of shows. I mean, like, Dick Wolf has this empire of crime shows basically built around that universe. So it works pretty well in this visual novel. Again, obviously, with what Outward was saying, I generally agree that this is the sort of thing where I wouldn't normally play just because it's a little passive, but the investigation part actually sort of sells me on it. But as far as all the story beats are concerned, like it does the format very well, right? This is something that has been sustained for probably decades in terms of something that makes for good television. But the thing, again, that's so fun about the Ace Attorney series, there would never be a situation where you see a pipe organ in any police officers' chambers. Or, I mean, they're all sitting in desks, so you wouldn't anyway. But, like, this is where the fact that it sort of has this anime style and doesn't necessarily take itself seriously just allows it to sort of have a little extra character without completely... So again, like, you're hitting the necessary story beats so that it's quite fun you're hitting the story beats so that in terms of the drama, again, it's spinning a good yarn, but it's allowing itself to have some fun, which just happens to be this nice little seasoning that it puts on top. So I actually kind of feel like I've never really sat down with a game and wrote out how it works, but this is kind of one I'd sort of like to sit down and say, like, so why, like, if I had to tell a Law and Order style story, you know, if I had to make, like, you know, as an exercise, right, take this Ace Attorney series and make it completely serious, like make it something that you could, you know, use as a spec script to get hired as a staff writer on some police procedural. And then, as you know, on the flip side of that, you know, take your favorite Law and Order episode, turn that into a Phoenix Wright episode, find out why how do you make that work? How do you tell that investigation story? How do you make it still worth your time in terms of having all these different characters and the things that they want and the resolution and such? But how do you add that spice that makes it so that, the fact that you have drawn characters and you need the locations to be interesting and basically give people a reason to not think that they're watching a PowerPoint version of a Law and Order episode? How do you do that? And I sort of feel, while it wouldn't necessarily give you the qualities of being a good writer for television or for games on its own, because obviously there's also there's that generative part where you need to not just make something that's riffing off of somebody else's stuff, but you are telling your own stories. But I sort of feel that in isolation, doing those exercises would allow you to sort of understand how the form works, so that you're solving problems when it comes to sort of the overall arc. And then, of course, in terms of the having original ideas part, that probably, a lot of people have different opinions about how that works, but I imagine it, for me at least, it's probably more about reading lots and just sort of, going for walks and just, floating around in the ether sometimes. Anyways, Chief's office. Whoa, where am I? In the Chief's office, silly. At least, that's what it said on the door. Check out that pipe organ. That's real, isn't it? Hey, I used to take organ lessons in kindergarten. They used to call me Little Miss Bach. I thought I was a genius until they tried teaching me notes. I never could remember where C was. Oh, it's you two. Chief Gant. He put that paper he was reading in his desk. So, Righto, have you been swimming lately? No, I've not. I've been kind of busy lately. I can appreciate that. I've had my hands full too with Mr. Marshall's misconduct. And Lana's provocative statement. Provocative statement? Oh, you mean about the forged evidence? 2 years have passed since that incident. My, how time flies. See that big picture on the wall over there? That's a picture of Lana, Neil, and me. So this is Mr. Marshall's brother, Prosecutor Neil Marshall. We took it to commemorate our work together. Something's not right with this picture. I can't quite seem to put my finger on it, though. Team picture added to the court record. Anyway, I'd like to reminisce all day, but there are matters that need my attention. I'm going to lock up here, so let's go out together. Oh. But this office... It was a crime scene 2 years ago, wasn't it? That case has long since been over. There's no need to investigate it anymore. All the same, we'd like to have a look around. Perhaps you didn't hear me. I said, there's no need to investigate it anymore. Now hurry up and get out. I have a meeting to attend. Looks like we aren't welcome. Seems like that case isn't over with yet after all. What do you mean? Chief Gant denied our request to search the crime scene. That means there must be a reason he doesn't want us looking around in there. You mean like a clue? There's got to be a way we can get inside the chief's office. Hey, pal. Detective Gumshoe. Aren't you supposed to be in a meeting? I'm, just taking a breather. My feet hurt. From sitting so long? Actually, I'm serving everyone coffee. Sounds like Detective Gumshoe's still out of the loop. Say, haven't either of you seen Mr. Edgeworth? Edgeworth? No. Why do you ask? He's under fire from both the police department and the prosecutor's office. It's almost like the battles between you two in court. Sounds serious. Is it because of what my sister said? That's basically what it all boils down to. That falsified evidence 2 years ago. Now Mr. Edgeworth has the whole world after his blood. Yikes. But why would Edgeworth be blamed? It's not like he knew evidence was forged. How you doing, Underwater Mark? It's good to see you again. Lana Skye is the guilty party here, isn't she? Regardless, a prosecutor is responsible for the evidence they present in court. Not only that, but as you know, there have been a lot of rumors going around about Mr. Edgeworth. His amazing talent as a prosecutor kept him safe from those who don't like him. But now with this, are there really so many people who hate him? In our world, only those with talent rise to the top. Mr. Edgeworth not only has that, but he's young. There's no better recipe I know for making enemies. Hey Dick, keep up the good work. Yes, sir. Let's go out for lunch again sometime. My treat. Yes, sir. You gotta take me back to that joint sometime, okay, Dick? Yes, sir. Seems you don't have any problems with enemies. Yeah, well, I'm careful not to stick out. Anyway, I'm a bit worried about him. Under all this pressure, I'm afraid Mr. Edgeworth just might crack. Actually, I took a look at the file earlier while coffee was brewing. He seems genuinely concerned for Edgeworth. Well, did you find out anything? The only evidence Dark left behind was during his final attack. His final attack? You mean when he killed Prosecutor Marshall, who was trying to protect some girl? Me. Seems Detective Gumshoe never realized Emma was the girl. That's when he left the most incriminating evidence of all. Well, what was it? Oh, let's see. I think it had something to do with the murder weapon. Oh, I forget. Look, it's all written somewhere in here, okay? His powers of recollection never fail to impress. Maybe we should show him the murder weapon. It might jog his memory. Draw a weapon on the detective. Joe Dark was 42 at the time of the crime. He was just your run-of-the-mill businessman. A businessman who made him take to serial killing. One day, on his way home from work, he hit someone with his car. With his car? So it was an accident? Accident, yes, but it transformed him into an animal. An animal? He killed a man that witnessed the accident. Then he killed a lady who saw the second crime. A kid by walked just then, so he killed him too. Then as he was burying the bodies, a jogger came upon the scene and was killed as well. Finally, he turned himself in. Seems he was a pretty careless animal. Of course, this is all conjecture. There wasn't a single shred of evidence. So he turned himself in. Yes, but in the middle of his questioning, he fled and murdered his final victim. Prosecutor Marshall. That crime was witnessed by someone too, but luckily Dark was arrested on the spot. It's a good thing that witness wasn't killed. That last witness, aka Emma. Hey, Detective Gumshoe, catch! About this. Hey, is that... There's a tag attached to it with the label SL9 incident on it. I believe this would be the broken murder weapon you were speaking of. What are you doing with that? Ever since that case was closed, that knife's been locked away in a locker. On the day Detective Goodman was murdered, this suddenly disappeared from the locker. And was found in Mr. Edgeworth's car muffler. That's it. Now I remember what the incriminating piece of evidence was. When you showed me that knife, it all came back to me. Well, what was it, Detective? Quick, before you forget again. This knife, it was Joe Dark's, wasn't it? That's right. We traced it back to the store he bought it at. Plus, it had his fingerprints on it, too. No one actually witnessed him using it to murder anyone, right? That's where his luck ran out. When you take a good look at the knife, you'll see it's broken. You don't have to take a good look to notice that. Yeah, well, anyway, take a guess where the broken off tip of the knife was found. That's what did him in. Where was it? The victim, Neil Marshall, was carrying it inside his own body. It was found deep inside the stab wound. Did it match Dark's knife? You bet, down to the last fiber. That's pretty conclusive. Neil's autopsy report added to the court record. Stabbed in the back, died from punctured heart and lung. A knife tip was in the wound. Switchblade knife updated in the court record. The broken tip was found in the victim's body, belonged to the murderer, Joe Dark. Well, there you have it in a nutshell. That's all I know. Can I ask you one more thing? What is it? If it's money you need, you should ask Chief Kent. It's not money, but it does concern the chief. His office is a crime scene, right? It's where prosecutor Neil Marshall was murdered. Chief's out now, and his office is locked. But we'd like to have a look around, if that's okay. Well, any detective's ID card can unlock the door. What? Really? But if I let a civilian in there, I'd be charged with breach of trust. Breach of trust? Simply put, I'd be canned. Oh. Sorry, pal. I don't plan on getting fired because of you. How about this ID card? It was Detective Goodman's. That won't work either. The data was deleted the day he died. Oh. So in other words, Gumshoe is our only chance of getting into that office. I wonder if there's something we could show him that would make him change his mind. Okay, that doesn't work. About that jar. I think I've seen it before somewhere. Somewhere? Or maybe it's one of those memories people have from previous lives. This must be the most uninformative detective I've ever met. Something about it makes me feel uneasy. It's like I'm in the chief's office and he's yelling at me. Chief Gant? Where could I have seen that before? Okay, surely I can give it. You're kidding me! Okay, there's nothing new there. I wonder if Edgeworth is back yet. There he is. Oh, okay. So maybe we get something for Gumshoe from here? It looks like he's writing something. What are you doing here? Sure was quick to throw that paper on the floor. Tough day in court, huh? I've had to live the past 2 years with rumors flying around. What's another allegation to me? Cheer up, Mr. Edgeworth. I'm rooting for you. That's Edgeworth for you. All Always trying to hide his real feelings. So what do you want? Unlike some people, I don't have all day. I wonder what he was writing before. Come on, Mr. Wright. Let's take a look. Are you crazy? Edgeworth is standing right there. Just distract him. I'll check it out. Hey, Edgeworth. Is that Detective Gumshoe on the window there? Oh no, he's falling to the ground. Hold on. First, let me see what that girl's doing crawling around my feet. He didn't even look. What? Letter of... If you're having trouble reading, I'll read it for you. It says letter of resignation. Resignation? Edgeworth, you don't mean... I'm tired, right? I feel as if something inside me has died. Mr. Edgeworth, none of it is your fault. I know the path I've walked. You don't need to tell me. And the path I've walked hasn't been just one. I can't forgive myself for what I've done. And no one else should forgive me either. Uh-oh. I think he's serious. Mr. Wright, please, you have to do something. This letter of resignation. I wonder if I can use it for anything. I wonder if that'll motivate Gumshoe to potentially get the sack for, There's no excuse for what I've done. 2 years ago, I used false evidence to obtain a guilty verdict. That's what it all breaks down to, and nothing I can do can erase that fact. But you didn't know, did you? I mean, that evidence was falsified. Or that the evidence was falsified. The police department and the prosecutor's office share a bond of trust. If that bond is broken, we stand to lose everything. The police department's error is my error. My responsibility as the prosecutor... Sorry. My responsibility as the prosecutor in charge. Hello, Sispy. How are you doing? That fact remains the same no matter what excuses I might have. Mr. Edgeworth, I take pride in my work. So tell me why. Why has it all come to this? Even Edgeworth can't keep this kind of emotion bottled up. Are you up for the trial tomorrow? First last year's trial, and now this one. It seems all you do is worry about me. To be honest, you're getting on my nerves. Mr. Edgeworth, you can't just walk out on the trial. Tomorrow is the last day. It's too late to change prosecutors. I'll bet that's what my superiors are banking on. I never thought that case would come back to haunt me like this. What do you mean? List of evidence. It seems so too short. Most lists run twice as long. It's only half as long as most lists? That is odd. After Neil Marshall was murdered, I became prosecutor for that case. I may not have been part of the investigation, but I knew what I had to do. Use the evidence I was given to prove the suspect guilty. That was really the only thing on my mind at the time. Say, we just saw a picture taken around that time. That picture, something seemed strange about it. Could you tell us again about what happened that day? The day Detective Goodman was murdered. You were participating in a ceremony over at the station, right? I've never cared for ceremonies, but I had to attend that one. Because you were awarded this. Those receiving awards can't exactly skip out on the ceremony. Sure they can. Had a brutal week at work, and now it's weekend finally. Ended up getting both Book of Hours and Cultist Simulator during the stream style. That is wonderful to hear, Sispy. Do you have a plan for which one you want to try first? I finished up at the office in the morning and then drove to the police department. You finished up at the office? Yes, just odds and ends, clerical stuff. I didn't plan on returning to the office that day. That is, until I was asked to take something back. Take something back? This. Oh yeah, Chief Gant asked you to hold on to that, didn't he? Yes, it was a piece of evidence in a case that was closed half a year ago. He asked me to bring it back to the prosecutor's office. That's the story we heard yesterday. So you came back here to the prosecutor's office because the chief asked you to? Book of Hours, of course. It was so expensive, but after watching the series, that is great to hear. Yeah, it's one of the things I'm kind of interested in is that Cultist Simulator, of course, was the first of the series, and it was the one that I originally played, but I actually played it in a very early alpha state. And it was even more incomprehensible than I think most people say it is today. But one of the things that I've been very curious about is when people are so when they start with Book of Hours, it's a very relaxed game, but it does sort of introduce the idea of connecting the cards and the ideas. Like basically it's one of these things where you sort of understand the grammar of the game a little bit better. And so one of the things I'm really curious about are the people who get introduced to the secret histories through Book of Hours, because I think it's fair to say that that is the most successful out of those games. I'm assuming the player count is higher, but just in terms of the fact that, you know, the proportion of people who've sort of played it and have played it specifically through the end and want more, I imagine that that has to be higher than Cultist Simulator. But it's not immediately obvious that when people say, hey, I want more I want more secret histories, when they go and play Cultist Simulator, which is definitely quite experimental. It's very willing to sort of fail you and fail you quite quickly in the case of something like The Exile. I can see how someone who falls in love with Book of Hours would not necessarily have the same experience with Cultist. And keeping in mind, right, that I really do like Cultist. I think it's a wonderful game, but I completely appreciate that someone who loves one experience won't necessarily enjoy the other one. So it's one of these things I'm kind of curious about. You know, I'm very, very happy that there is a little pipeline. Like, obviously not enough that Weather Factory will keep making games just off of my content, but I'm really happy that there's a bit of a pipeline of people who will watch my stuff, give the games a shot, and let me know that they're giving the games a shot, because it's just nice to hear. But I'm curious just to sort of see what that journey looks like, right, for the people who just can't get enough of the Weather Factory stuff because it's Weather Factory. And some people are like, yeah, I was about to abandon this game, but then I saw your tutorial and I gave it another shot and I love it now. And then even then, it's obviously I like the game, so it's not as happy to hear that. But, when some people will just say, it's like, yeah, I gave it a try and I like your stuff, but I can't stand those games. And, I don't feel like I need to rush to defend Milady or anything like that. But it's just interesting to hear all of the different perspectives. And Vanguard says, I have a bunch of Steam cards on the market, and so far he made $228. I think I can get anything on sale right now with that. I mean, there's definitely games less than $2. Now, when you say Steam cards, are those the Steam cards for your game that you made $228 from, or from like just selling your Steam cards in your inventory? Yeah, well, the other thing too, Cispy, I think there's actually two reasons. So, like, Cultist Simulator, this is the big thing, right? Like, even Weather Factory have sort of said, like, they don't want to, it's the game that bought them a flat. So, they don't want to do the comparison in a way that implies that Cultist Simulator is somehow the lesser game. But of course, they've grown as game developers, they've grown as a studio, and Book of Hours is a much more ambitious title. And so what I think is kind of interesting is that Cultist Simulator was interesting and worth doing in its own right at the time. It's worth remembering, actually, that it had a publisher. Humble... I don't think it was called Humble Games at the time. I think it was actually called Humble Publishing. But basically, Humble was the original group to do that. And so keep in mind, right, that there is a publisher looking at this incredibly experimental game and saying, is like, sure, we'll put some money towards it. And actually it was a I believe it was I believe it was actually a non-recoupable. So like, it was basically like, this thing may sell $0 and we're not able to claw that money back, which I thought was I love the fact that they did that. But clearly, like, that's a big risk to take on a game that's so strange. But what's neat about it, right, is that so Cultist Simulator was able to not just work, but be a genuinely successful game. On its own merits, as a standalone game, right? Like, people who are like, yeah, this looks weird, but I'm gonna give this thing a shot, and they're like, my God, I did not know that this was something that I wanted. And of course, now you have Book of Hours, which is a different style of experience. But what's kind of neat here is that Cultist Simulator has now gone from you have to want to try weird stuff. And I mean, it could just be you want to try weird stuff because someone gave it to you in a bundle, or somebody gave it to you as a gift, or, you were hearing rumors about it, or some Canadian accent told you that it was a good game. But now, because some people will play Book of Hours and they'll spend some time in the Secret History setting, what that can do is potentially give them an engine to get through some of the harder stuff at the start of Cultist Simulator, because they want to know more of that world, and they know that, getting past the starving to death or the falling to despair, or, getting kidnapped by cultists and having to become part of a beautiful ending, these are part of playing and learning the game, and that by progressing through that earlier game, you will learn more about the setting that's interesting. And that was something that it was always implicitly there because the lore was always there. But because people now have an idea of that bigger world from the librarian's perspective, it's interesting to see how potentially people who might have bounced off the game originally know that there is something deeper underneath. So for instance, it's the only game where you can see the Mantis, for instance. The Mantis only exists as a painting in Book of Hours. So for people who do really want to dive in deep, Book of Hours could potentially be the reason why they're willing to stick through Cultist Simulator, where previously it would be, it's like, this thing is just asking too much of me, and I'm not yet convinced that I'm going to be getting the value out of the end. Although, of course, I think, I think personally that the game was worth it standalone. But anyways, Spy, I'm very happy to hear about your acquisitions. I hope you really enjoy them. And on top of it, again, I try not to be too much of an egomaniac about the pipeline to Cultist Simulator sales, but it is actually one of the things that I personally feel very happy when people tell me. Because, I have gotten to know Weather Factory a little bit better over the course of doing this. They're people that I personally admire, like, in terms of just my individual interactions with them. It's like, I don't want to oversell the relationship, right? Like, I'm pretty sure if I called and asked for money, they'd say, who is this? But, it's also clear that my interactions with them are not just limited to the, like, Reddit AMAs or anything like that either. So they're two people that, through the interactions I've had with them, are people that I speak highly of them, because in my interactions, they're people who've been very interesting, supportive, and that's not something that I can count on all of the game developers that I've interacted with. And so the fact that there's been a way that I've been able to sort of pay that back, in the sense that people who may not have otherwise experienced the game are able to enjoy it, that's one of the things that continues to make streaming worth it. Why I talk about it even though I'm playing Ace Attorney. You have the right to feel happy about it. It is the fact. No, thank you. If nothing else, it justifies them giving me a key because, I'm not a very big streamer, right? So there are definitely companies that used to give me keys that effectively say, we actually consider you worth more, you just buying the game. And of course, I don't buy the game then. So, right. So you came back here because to the prosecutor's office because the chief asked you to? That's right. This picture was hanging on the wall in Chief Gant's office. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He had just started making a name for himself. Looks like this was taken when he received the King of Prosecutors trophy. Speaking of that, there's something that bothers me. Yes? The trophy Mr. Marshall is holding. It's a little different than yours. Yes, you're right. I remember now. Remember what? That was what the official prosecutor's trophy looked like until 2 years ago. There's a story behind its design. A story? Sounds interesting. Would you mind telling it to us? It's simple, really. Contradiction. That's what the award's based on. You know, it wouldn't hurt if you put this up somewhere on a shelf. That has no meaning for me anymore. What do you mean anymore? That's who I was last year. What good is it to dwell on the past? He's asking me? Why can't he just accept it graciously? Actually, something's been troubling me about this shield. Look, do you notice anything different? Different? Yeah, don't you remember? The other shield in the court record. Guess I'd better present the other shield. What the hell is she talking about? Right, please. I'm the prosecutor on this case. You don't expect me to sit here and discuss the case with you over a cup of tea. I'll pass on the tea. Just tell me about the case. Mr. Wright, Mr. Edgeworth just told you no in a very stylish manner. Whose side are you on, anyway? Maybe if I just show him my best evidence, I can get some reaction out of him. Have you not played the new Oh no, sorry, you love the new XCOMs. Okay, yeah. This award originates from an ancient Chinese tale. In Chinese, the word contradiction is written with 2 characters. The first means halberd, and the second means shield. Have you heard this story? Me? Oh, sure. Everyone knows that. Why don't you tell it, though? For Emma's sake. Very well. Long ago, in the kingdom of Chu, there was an arms merchant. One day, he presented the king with 2 items. The first was a halberd he claimed could slice through any shield or armor. The second was a shield he claimed could withstand any weapon. Wait a minute. Those claims contradict each other! Very perceptive. But again, you've heard this story before, right? Anyway, as you mentioned, the very descriptions of these items discredit them both. When the king pointed this out, the merchant was left speechless. And thus the Chinese word for contradiction was born. Oh, I see. So the chipped shield and the broken knife symbolize... Precisely so. They symbolize the merchant's items. The ancient tale ends with a merchant at a loss for words. But it's in our nature to pursue matters to their conclusion, even if it results in something as ugly as this. Wow, thanks, Mr. Edgeworth. I learned something completely new today. That's funny. If that's so, then why were you only given a shield? You'll have to ask Chief Gant. 2 years ago, he had the halberd part of the ward abolished. Chief Gant. King of Prosecutors Trophy updated in the court record. Alright, let's see if the resignation will get Gumshoe to let us back in the office. Excuse me. Would either of you care for a quarter pound of roast beef? Miss Starr! I guess she's out of lunches. You certainly are the curious sort, aren't you? Kind of like the first person who sucked a cow's nipple to discover milk. What an odd... Still, never thought you'd go digging up that case from 2 years ago. Everyone in this trial was involved in the SL9 incident. Not only that, but the murder occurred on the very day the evidence from the case was due for transferal. This can't all be attributed to mere coincidence. Aren't you forgetting something? You know that little scene I happened to witness? The instant Lana stabbed Detective Goodman with a knife. No matter how much of the past you dig up, it won't change what I saw. Roast beef is meant to be savored when eaten. The star's hatred toward Lana. It all dates back to 2 years ago. Joe Dark, that's a name I'll not soon forget. We trailed him for half a year. Oh, the pressure. Still, I don't think it was ever more alive than I was then. Those days were steamier than a bowl of hot gravy. Poor old Jake Marshall, though, must have been going through hell. You mean because of his brother's death? They were close, those two. After Neil died, something took over Jake. He became obsessed. Seeing Jake like that made her all the more desperate. Her? Lana Skye. My sister? The best of the best were put on the SL9 case. Of course, they were led by the legendary duo. Lana and Chief Gant. That legendary pair was the reason we were able to keep up our investigation. That's why we were so shocked over how it turned out. You mean with the forging of the evidence? Don't get me wrong, Joe Dark got what he deserved. Still, it was obvious the evidence produced in court was being manipulated. Items our team never found would suddenly appear, while other items were kept secret. But you don't have proof anything illegal was done. I'm proof enough of what happened. After that case, all of us save Goodman were relieved of our duties. Most without even so much as an explanation. Then Lana Skye transferred to the prosecutor's office and became chief prosecutor. Lana always wanted to be a prosecutor. Nothing's quite as simple as it appears. Huh? Lana Skye was merely being used as a pawn. That's my take on the matter. She was being used? Damon Gant and Lana Skye. Gant led the investigation, with Lana second in command. They were the best. They solved all kinds of cases together, didn't they? Damon Gant's magnetism in particular was almost unreal. His magnetism? By that, I mean his ability to attract evidence. He'd produced the most incredible evidence in cases he handled. Incredible evidence? You mean... Oh yes, there were rumors about him even back then. No one dared confront him, though. I take it she's talking about forged evidence. Back then, everyone looked up to Lana. All the detectives wanted to be like her. Really? Oh yes, myself included. I was a fool, really. She hated everything crooked and always watched out for the other detectives. That's why she was so concerned for Jake. Mr. Marshall. When Jake's brother was murdered, she felt as if she had lost her own brother. If it wasn't for her, I don't think Jake would ever have recovered from his shock. That's what makes it all the more infuriating. The star. That's why I'll never be able to forgive her. Why did she have to turn so cold after that? Lana transferred to the prosecutor's office 2 years ago, didn't she? Yes, thanks to Chief Gant's powerful influence. Chief. That's right. Having solved the SL9 case, his position as chief was secured. There was only one thing left for him to control, and then no one could stand in his way. The prosecutor's office. What? You mean that's why Lana was transferred? If he could control the chief prosecutor, he could control the prosecutor's office. That must have been his goal all along. But how could he control Lana? I don't know, but one thing's for sure. Ever since that case ended, she's never been the same. It's only logical to conclude there must have been a reason for her change. At last, I'm finally getting close to the bottom of this ugly mess. Thank you, Miss Starr. You listen to me, rookie. It takes more than just ingredients to create a fine cuisine. I hope you turn out to be a better chef than I've been. Oh, you're back. You are still here? I gotta make 150 copies of these files. Brewing coffee, copying files. I'm turning into a regular DJ. You're a DJ as well? If I'm not mistaken, I think he means desk jockey. Oh, that DJ. I gotta admire your persistency, but my answer's still no. I'm not letting you in the chief's office. Period. Be my neck on the line. That office is the last crime scene in the SL9 incident. I have to take a look in there. There's gotta be something we can do to make the detective change his mind. So I said I was gonna try the resignation letter when we got it. What's this crumpled up piece of paper? No way! Mr. Edgeworth can't be serious! Is he ever not serious? I can't believe they've pushed him this far. Mr. Edgeworth really feels responsible. When I first met him, I thought he was as cold as ice too. But I know different now. He trusted us detectives to provide him with sound evidence. But we betrayed him. Detective. That's it. I've made up my mind. But, here, take my ID card. We can't do that. If someone found out, they wouldn't let you off the hook with another lost item report. Look at me. It's no secret I'm already out of the loop. After all, I'm friends with Mr. Edgeworth. Depending on how this case turns out, I may already be as good as terminated. What? So at least let me do this, for Mr. Edgeworth's sake. Alright, Detective. Thank you. Gumshoe's ID tucked swiftly into pocket. A police department ID allows access to areas of the PD open to detectives. Presumably we don't have anything else to talk to him about, so, Chief's Office. February 24th, Police Department, Chief's Office. Here goes, Mr. Wright. We're in. If anyone finds us now, Detective Gumshoe's a goner. If that happens, I'm counting on you to bail me out. Eek! Ah! Sorry, I thought you were a ghost. I didn't even know you could slap a ghost. Ah! Detective Gumshoe! What are you doing sneaking up on us like that? I wasn't sneaking. I was just worried something might go wrong. So I came to. You're here, then what's the point in giving us your ID card? Gumshoe's ID crushed and rendered unusable in pocket. Hey, don't do that to my card. I hardly ever got a chance to come in here. So I figured I'd have a look around myself. So I actually really liked how they went completely over the top with the contradiction music when pointing out the halberd and shield. I was a little surprised I didn't see more more responses to that. But yes, this is also a very funny bit. Besides, we're all in this together now. You really do want to get fired, don't you? Not if we're lucky. Now come on, let's see what we can find out. I got a bad feeling about this. This is the real deal, isn't it? That armor and these weapons? Sure is, pal. Chief doesn't care for imitations. First the pipe organ, now this armor. Do you know how many taxpayer dollars must have gone into this room? What? You mean we're paying for this? That's it. I'm not paying 1 cent of my taxes. You don't have any taxes to pay. Shh, be careful what you say. Who knows? Chief may be hiding in this armor as we speak. I don't think he'd fit in there. Even if he did, he'd never be able to get back out. Cut it out. You guys don't know how scary that guy can be. I don't know how many of you have seen Mad Men, but as soon as I saw this armor suit, I remembered Roger Sturley saying, it's like, you ever get 3 sheets to the wind and try to put that thing on? You can see pretty far from 15 stories up. If you were to drop that suit of armor from here... At first, the chief wanted to use stained glass for this window. Really? Why didn't he? Say he changed his mind because he wouldn't be able to see the view. Oh. Stained glass or not, it's a huge window. I mean, there's some stained glass up there. Wow, look at the size of Chief Gant's desk. Speaking of that, when we were here earlier... Oh, it's you two! Chief Gant. Put that paper he was reading in his desk. I wonder what he was reading. This looks like a list of evidence. A list of evidence? In most cases, the list runs twice as long as this, though. Hey, look at this case name. Huh? The SL9 incident. I wonder what this is doing here. Hold on, Detective. What did you just say? I said, I wonder what... No, about the evidence list. Normally they're twice as long? That's right. Guess there wasn't a lot of evidence. A half-sized list of evidence. The list of evidence, it seems too short. Most lists run twice as long. What would the other half of the list be doing here? I knew it! The chief must be hiding something about that case. Would appear so. Evidence list added to the court record. Wow, the size of Chief Gant's desk. I found this inside the drawer. List of evidence from the SL9 incident. Mr. Edgeworth had the other half of that list. What would this list be doing here? I'd better look at a little more into this list. So I'll take a look at the evidence later, but this is safe, isn't it? Safe. That word is ripe with intrigue. Okay, if you say so. It looks like a code needs to be entered in this panel to open it. A 7-digit number. I think I just might know what it is. Do you know what it is? I have a hunch. Oh, I know. You want to try my birth date. It's... Enhance. I have a better idea. Here goes nothing. That is actually kind of a nice little, that is a nice little reveal. I know the, like I'm assuming at this point the player is going to have some suspicion of Gant, but it, unlike a couple of the instances earlier in the game where it sort of hands it out to you, there are some cases where you have to sort of indicate your knowledge. But I actually kind of prefer something like this to the trial where they give you sort of 3 dialogue options to pick. Because in this case here, sort of solving a puzzle through your, meta knowledge of the game, or the fact that you're sort of in a plot, so chances are it's, not going to be some random character that was the murderer. It's a nice little way of just sort of reaffirming or getting you to indicate that you're thinking that way without... without kind of beating you over the head with it. What number did you enter? Whose birthday was that, pal? 7777777. The final ID card number on that record. What? The number of the mysterious executive officer who entered the room that day. And someone with terrible